We took Bailey like that. Jeremy got married.
Okay, the microphones are live.
Give me a chance to
She
stand.
almost died.
Which one's
I
that?
remember.
We picked her up
I know.
because she wasn't used to it.
Makes a big difference.
Hush falls.
Hush balls are the crowd.
All the reports are next
There's
month.
another one.
It should be. You might not have switched it yet.
Okay,
What?
well, that's the one.
No, I haven't switched them yet, I'm sorry. I will for the regular meeting,
Okay, no problem then.
but there's no reports because it's just the agenda meeting.
Abuse me.
I hit the chair.
I know you did.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Carrie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, 6 o'clock.
Gotta get that clock.
Jeez, your clock is bad. We should just take a.
This is military precision
You
in
are
here,
like
6
whipping the
o'clock
whip
on the
today.
dot.
You gotta get a clock that works.
That's right. Jim, how are you?
How are you?
Mr. Bonner?
What's going on 16
We still don't have the flag in the vacant spot.
I'd like to call the meeting to order
Getting
at
there.
6 PM. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clock?
6 o'clock, right on the nose. Roll call for attendance. Carrie Fox.
Here.
Brian Snyder is absent with cause. He's not feeling well. Scott Podolsky is here. Raymond Kerr.
Here.
Kevin Bertocchi.
Here.
Luann Homa.
Here.
Brian Nolan.
Present.
Mayor Bob Lang.
Here.
Solicitor Eric D.
Here.
Borough Manager Dwight D. Bottle.
Here.
Opens us up to the first citizens comment section. Anything that is listed on the agenda, anybody that is watching or in attendance knows we offer it twice. First one is reserved for anything that is on the agenda. If you need a copy of the agenda, they're on the back table. But if anybody has any comment for anything that is on the agenda, Dwight has the discussion items listed there. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
And just as a reminder, we've gone back to an agenda meeting once a month and then the regular meeting. So the agenda meeting is to discuss things that are going on the regular meeting or items that need to be addressed and put on the regular meeting.
Chuck? Any comment?
Good.
Mr. Bonner?
I will comment as part of the planning commission or planning committee that we're excited about setting up regularly scheduled meetings, both to be proactive as well as reactive.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Exceptions to open meeting laws. We've had no executive sessions since the last public meeting back in February. No minutes to approve, no communications into the borough since the last meeting. Again, this is the agenda working meeting, so we will have all of the committee reports next week. So if we jump all the way down to new discussions, we've got, looks about 10 or 11 discussion items, and we can just kind of pick them off in order. The first one, discussion comments, discussion on the DCED grant award for multi-municipal communication platform. Dwight, I'll be referring to you on a lot of these, so.
Sure, thank you. So we discussed this earlier in the year, but we felt that there was a need for a communications platform that not only reached out to our residents, but also Breckenridge and Harrison, since we have a multi-municipal comprehensive plan. We interact a lot with the other 3 municipalities. Unfortunately, after the incident in January, we quickly realized too that if we have some sort of incident bounces back and forth in between towns, we need a way to alert residents in multiple towns for any type of such emergency situation, but also for events. So we reached out to the states. We have been awarded $20,000 over the next 2 years for us, Breckenridge and Harrison, to institute Savvy Citizen, which is a homegrown communications platform that has the ability to push out notifications via an app, via text message or email. It's pretty handy. It has a calendar that will come up as well as the actual alerts and pushes. And we will have the ability to section it off by town. So we can send out an alert just to Tarentum, but we can also send it out across all 3. And the other 2 towns will have the same ability. So Harrison will be able to send out something specific to Harrison, but if they need, they'll be able to push it out to all 3 towns as well. So we just signed the award last week, and we will be working over the next 4 to 8 weeks to get it implemented. And then we will have a communications plan out to the towns and how actually we're gonna tell people about this. So it'll be a mix of traditional mailers, inserts, web, council meetings, and we're hoping to get a few postcards and stuff too to strategically place out of businesses and around town. The more people that we can get up to sign up for this, the better, the more effective it will be. We will test it out for 2 years, and the nice thing about this is it is very cost effective. So it's like $1,800 a year just for our town. So if it is something that turns out to be a good product for all of the towns, it will be something that all the municipalities can afford to keep, which is part of the reason that we selected it. We also have, they are only a few towns over their headquarters that we have the ability to actually meet with them in person. So if we need to tweak something or develop something, we have that ability. We don't currently have that option with our current platform, so it can make things difficult if we need to change something specific for the Pittsburgh region. So there is that. That's all I have on that. Any questions, discussions, concerns, Carrie?
I know, Carrie, when you set that meeting up, probably last fall, end of last summer, last
Carrie's
fall.
like, what?
I know Savvy Citizen provides all kind of marketing materials, I believe for your, as part of the agreement that we would enter
Yes.
into.
Yeah,
that They would help us.
Yeah, they'll design a plan around, what the 3 communities want.
Is that $20,000 this year, $20,000 next year, or $20,000 total?
$20,000 total. So basically what we did is we worked with them for the platforms and the needs, got the cost estimates for each municipality per year, made sure that it was under the required bidding threshold that we could just directly do it with Savvy Citizen, and it would work for all of our needs. And so it'll be 10,000 roughly this year for all 3 communities, and 10,000, that includes startup cost and the extra marketing materials for the rollout.
And the cost to residents is?
0.
I'm thrilled about
I
this.
knew
It's
that. I was
been,
just
what, 7 years in the making that I've been trying to get this. I love it.
Since this is a more informal gathering, when Savvy Citizen first was developed, we actually were their beta site, along with, I believe, McCandless, and helped them work out the bugs. It was pretty slick, and it's improved.
So it's coming full circle for you guys.
Yeah, well, our board in its wisdom chose not to sign on because it was gonna cost us some money. I didn't vote for that. We didn't, because we were doing the beta site, it was free. I spent personally a huge amount of time with them on that.
Well, I think the nice thing about having a 2-year pilot that nobody has to pay for is you really can get a feel for it in today's capabilities. And it's one of, if not the most cost-effective one in our area. So the current platform that we use, we pay about $5,000 for, and we do not have the same type of flexibility to go across multiple communities.
The other thing that's actually interesting, and especially for Carrie with the Recreation Board, is that people in the greater region can also subscribe
Yes.
to it. And the announcements, like you said, that are blasted out, you can have for the world, you can have for just the 3 towns, or you could have just yourself and Bracken, whatever the issues are.
So I get the alerts from Bellevue because I live in Bellevue, so it's nice for me going back and forth that I know
Right.
which meetings are going on where and which events that I can go and
Right.
pick and choose.
And when you're talking about events, it is really very helpful. The only difficulty that we experienced, and one of the reasons the board at the original time didn't want to spend any money on it, individuals have to sign up.
Right.
So it's not automatic and universal. It's universal access, but you have to enroll in it. And you can have it on your cell phone, you can have it on your iPad, you can have it on your computer or whatever. In that sense, it's very versatile. But obviously, we have a lot of people that aren't very technologically attuned or are intimidated.
Well, I think we discussed as a council that we weren't gonna get rid of our one-call system.
So,
Or not,
Code Red.
Code
Code
Red.
Red, yeah.
Right, the Code Red, the drawback of Code Red is you also have to sign up for that. So
But the people that want a phone call versus,
Right, and the trade-off there is, maybe you don't have the phone call, you still have the text, the email, the app. But again, it gives us the ability to communicate across 3 different municipalities, whereas Code Red doesn't do that. So in terms of emergency alerts, it's got a broader reach.
And it's on the website, it's very versatile.
Right.
And the fact that the state will pay for us initially to get our feet wet, we welcome it.
Well, and that's something that we can work with the team itself, again, because they're local. So the federal government, they have an alert system that will push out alerts to every cell phone in an area, whether you're signed up for their system or not. They are letting certain platforms get access to that system. Now, they have to go through a whole bunch of security and training and things like that. Code Red is currently enrolled in that program, so if there really was an emergency alert, that once we do the training and sign up for it, they'd have the ability to push it to every cell phone user, regardless if they signed up or not. Savvy Citizen does not yet have that capability, but it is something that they're open to doing the coding for and the security measures. So I would imagine that if we continue to work with them over the next couple of years, that they will also have that capacity.
Yeah, they're pretty sophisticated and at this point nicely experienced, so.
We also had the Zoom, like a presentation over Zoom, and I don't remember who all sat in that, but it,
We're all
here.
yeah, a lot, but so it was explained to us, I think, pretty well.
That's the night I signed up for it.
Yeah, I used to be on
Harrison
it
and
with
Breckenridge, I signed up and
Harrison.
I'm going, I'm not getting anything.
Well, then Harrison stopped.
Yeah, then
I
they
quit
stopped it, I
getting-
guess that's
yeah,
why we're not getting anything.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
truly, that would have been very instrumental out in January.
it would have.
That would have,
It would have
That would have been-
Of course.
that would have
of course.
been something really instrumental, like to shelter. in
And I
place.
don't know how many of you are going to Elam in April, but I talked to the folks from Savvy Citizen. They weren't completely sure if they were coming, but they're probably gonna come. And we could all gather for a little,
Yeah, they're usually
chit-chat.
there.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good for all of our communities. It's just a matter of making sure that we consistently remind people throughout the year and the coming years to sign up for it.
Sorry to delay.
Well, I think in light of the tragedy that we had in our area, I think that will encourage people to sign up for it.
I think you're
You
right.
know,
Yep.
I think it will. I mean, we're living in a different
It's a
age
different-
right now. It's,
Yep.
yeah, it's scary.
More and more people are also carrying smartphones and
Yes.
getting more
Right.
involved in them. So there's probably not as many people who wouldn't be receptive to it.
That is also true. All right,
Yeah, and a shout out to Mandy Steele because she was very instrumental in this, so.
yes.
It's super.
215 Corbett.
So as everyone sees, it is being worked on finally. So it is coming down. I would like to discuss a little bit about, I've talked to several members of council. I know originally there was discussion about whether that's going to be a parklet, a parking lot, some sort of other use. Whatever council's kind of ultimate goal is, we'll have to go through planning there in the back. But our Public Works Director and I had a third thought that we wanted to discuss with council as well. Because we do the parades there and because we have night market and everything else, once the lot is down and we actually straighten out that street a little bit, it's not gonna be as big as everybody, kind of originally thought. We'd like to discuss the possibility about either putting in some sort of slightly raised deck or a pretty big gazebo there. For the reason being that when we have the middle school choir come in, that they have a place to go to. When we have night markets, the coffee shop, they bring in every night market, they have a little live band. And if we could have a place where there was built-in electricity that the borough could control, that they could go on, we could also use that space for light up night and for other types of thing, almost like a grandstand type of thing for when the parades and things.
Christmas tree.
Christmas tree.
Put a tree on there, that's true.
If you get an oblong gazebo,
Yeah,
which had
Right,
more
you can put a
room,
tree there.
and the chief was concerned, and me and Dwight and the chief talked, put a camera up there and tap it into the police department, just like the gazebo over there in the park. you know?
yeah, I mean, I'm aware generally that we need more parking, but I do have a little bit of a concern if we put a parking lot almost right in a four-way intersection. So we'd have to very carefully
Well,
think
I don't
out.
think there's enough space. What are you gonna put, 4 cars, maybe?
Most.
Right.
Maybe.
At the most.
And that
This
mural.
makes a better
They
option.
talked
Yeah.
about could be in the back.
Because it's too small for a park, too.
Ron,
Yeah, if they're okay with it, like the mural in the back there?
They don't think they're gonna be okay with it.
You don't think they're gonna
I
be okay with
talked
that?
to them
Okay.
already.
All
Let's
right.
throw up a white fence and let them paint it. A mural on
there
the
you go.
fence.
We just put
Actually,
up a white
that's not a
fence.
bad idea.
I like that.
All in favor, that was a good one, I like that idea.
There you go.
Yeah, what
Just
are they
like it
gonna
off
do,
and
right?
just-
Put up a
It's our
white
fence.
vinyl fence and let them put their,
Yeah, we're all on that.
Right, so,
Yeah.
we know for certain that the borough wants to somewhat straighten out that street, which is gonna require us to move the catch basin, and is also gonna require us to bring in some, make sure that the paving is done correctly. For now, we only have a few options, so once the building is down, there's a little bit of a concern from a few folks about just being flat land there at night, about people running over that sidewalk. What we could do is we could either erect some sort of barrier there to make sure until we make permanent plans. We could also have our public works department tear up the sidewalks and put some blacktop down, basically to hold over until we decide and get a bid out for what we're doing with the plans.
what would be the problem, putting a curb in with the sidewalk? It's gonna be there anyway, eventually, right? That sidewalk's gonna have to,
Well,
Still gonna need to be there.
yes, the sidewalk is still gonna need to be there, but if we're gonna do it and bid it out, I'd rather have the street, the sidewalk, everything done by the professionals all at the same time.
Get the plastic temporary Jersey barriers put around it.
Well, that's an option, or cement, or again, we
Oh,
can
if you,
tear up and blacktop
I like the
part of
idea of
it.
blacktopping it
And just,
and marking it, so, because
People start
if
to
you
get
put the
used to it.
Jersey barrier there, it's no different than the building being there.
right.
Because the
Right.
road is still screwed up and it still is, it still is an eyesore. But if you blacktop it, at least it shows a little bit of progress, and then we can get, figure out what we want to do inside that lot.
Well, in conjunction with that, Dwight and I were over the other day looking at that, and there's 5 parking spaces in front of
Yes.
Zampogna's building.
That they're parallel
They're
right now.
parallel. If we put angled parking in, I think we could get almost 8 parking spaces.
Hate angled parking.
Because there's just a little piece
Hate it.
at Second Avenue that's not big enough for a car, And I think.
Try parking one of my trucks there. Yeah, crew cab,
Yeah.
long
I'm not
day.
even real happy with the angled parking
Yeah.
up on Corbett Street further, because sometimes you've got these
Well,
big
I have
people
a-
parking the corners, so.
Well, that's
something we need to look
That's
at.
odd too, because actually you have to go out around the Praha.
Exactly.
So that side of the street should be the angled parking, and the other side should be vertical.
So speaking of
Right.
that, I have another, we want to float out to council, and this is a very early draft and certainly subject to lots of stuff. In between the junk store, it used to be the junk store, everybody
Grant
says.
building.
The old Grant building, and what's the other one?
Isley's.
Isley's, everyone knows that sidewalk is caved in, and it's just kind of an empty lot there right now. We might want to consider if the owner of the land would sell it to us, fill that in and put the parking lot in there. If parking is a concern, it would attach to the parking lot that we have in the back and make it basically a pass-through for parking. It also hides it in between the buildings, so it's not an eyesore. And during night markets and/or farmers markets, you almost have an alcove of a U-shape to put in
People can
tents
set up stuff.
and
set
set
up
up
in
in
there.
tents. That way, everything's more centralized in here. It's just an early thought for council to consider.
and like you said, that probably wouldn't be good for two-way traffic.
Right.
The one way to come in and out the back.
Yeah,
door.
almost as a pass-through, right.
Yes.
So it's just something to consider. I mean, if we're looking at the whole Corbett corridor from the reinvestment that's coming
It's only
in,
one way in.
to redoing the Corbett.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
if those other buildings are they're kind of redone the way that everyone thinks they're gonna be done, there's gonna be more traffic down here, ideally. And having that kind of pass through and additional parking would be great, in my opinion.
Well, we have to do something. Something has to be done with that.
If somebody don't think of that and make it a private, you know what I mean? Somebody buy it and make it a private parking lot.
Well, and that very well could happen. Or the other consideration is if we wanted to go down that route, the owner might not want to sell it too. That's another,
You'd have to contact Bill Herman.
yes.
Yes. While we're on that part of Corbett, the Isley name is still part of the building, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we could get in touch with whoever is in charge of Isley's. And
They're still an
Yes.
ICS corporation.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
and see if,
Yeah, 'cause they still make.
see if they'd like the idea of having the name like redone on there. Because,
That
Isn't it
that
the
would be
towel
up
on
to
the
the owner.
ground?
yeah,
when you
well,
walk
see if
in?
they'd
Makes sense.
like it,
They have the towel on the ground, and Isley's
Yes.
is written in the towel also.
you know.
Yeah, I just, as we're looking at the whole
I think
redevelopment
it would
of
dress
Corbett.
up,
Yeah,
That'd be
that would
something
dress
else.
that up.
Yeah,
And everybody calls it, they don't call it the
Like
Merle
temperatures.
Norman building.
Oh, yes.
They call it the
Isley's.
Isley's building.
right. Yeah, so it's just something that we can certainly talk about more of it.
I still get Isley's chipped ham and barbecue sauce at the store.
We did a story in our first magazine about Isley's, and we reached out to the company and got all the proper
Still have their
information.
communication?
Probably.
Contact?
For 10 cents,
Okay.
then things were this high.
Yeah.
The White House.
Yeah, so there's
Cherries
what's
in it.
currently going on with 215 Corbett. Just to wrap that up to keep us on task. They told us today, probably they think about 3 days before that's all wrapped up unless there's some unforeseen issue.
So do we want to come to a consensus of once that's down, and not have to wait until April of what we want to do with that road, so it's coming down, so again, somebody's not coming down there at 2 o'clock in the morning, hops a curb and ends up in somebody's building.
Right, I mean, I can add it to next week's agenda for something, if that's a general, to add it to the agenda, to just at least temporarily straighten it out until we get a permanent plan.
I think that's a good idea.
And then the permanent plan, whatever we do with that, deciding on, again, is gonna have to go through planning
stop sign
and
right
a public meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, there is a stop sign right there,
Yes.
so it will slow the traffic
Did
down.
Mark get any prices on a gazebo? Because he called me for the number of where the recreation board purchased the one in the park.
I don't have any prices yet, I just have some pictures of like ones we're
Didn't that
thinking
come
of.
in parts and they had to put it together?
Yeah, they
didn't
actually built it on site, yeah.
Not that I'm kind of jumping out of here too, because comment sections are for the end, but Jim, any comments on that? Because it's gonna have to go through planning eventually.
Be good to get input.
Okay. Input is good. So then I'm gonna skip on to the next item.
Act 172 of 2016 for fire department.
So, myself, Scott, and Luann, and Brian came in a little bit here too at the end, met with our 3 fire departments to discuss the possibility of enacting Act 172 of 2016. This is something that Harrison currently does, and obviously it's been around for a few years. But what this does is this allows us to give a certain either earned income or real estate for the borough tax break for firefighters, and it's designed to encourage volunteer firefighters to join. Most people know that volunteering for many, many things has been down since the pandemic, fundraising, all of that. Unfortunately, it has not come back up to pre-pandemic levels. This is a way to possibly encourage. Is it gonna be a panacea that's gonna solve all issues? No, but it is a step to help them. If it's something that council would be interested in, I will have the information and the entire act that I will send out prior to next meeting. And as of anything that takes any kind of tax effect, it won't take effect until next year. So we do have time to discuss it, to go through the specifics, to get with legal and make sure there's any concerns. So we just wanted to bring that up as we look to help our fire departments and really all of our first responders. The last couple of months have taught us anything, our first responders are certainly invaluable in all aspects.
Yeah, I think we gotta make sure that we're covering not just the fire departments, but the ambulance service, hazmat team. We got people that volunteer in the hazmat team.
Yeah.
For Allegheny County. They ought to be included in this, because that's volunteer.
You have to live in the community that you're.
I'm telling the people
Then you
that
could get,
they're living in the community.
Right.
There are people who live in the community that volunteer for that.
Yeah, and those are things that we can continue to talk about. So the Act 172 is specific for fire. There's a few other things for EMS. It's not quite the same, but they're specific there. And hazmat, I would have to do more research. There's nothing that comes to my mind off the top of my head that's
That's
specific.
pretty much a fire department.
if I'm not
but hazardous
mistaken,
Material specialty.
in there it lists who is all included in that Act 172. But with Eureka, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I think I'm right. I believe that all their EMS are actually considered volunteer fire too.
Yeah,
Am I
probably.
right?
I would
Yeah,
believe
They're
so.
both.
Yeah, so
That
they,
covers.
we wouldn't have to really worry about that.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah, they do both.
so all I can say is we're very blessed with all our fire departments, our EMS. I've been listening to COG. Chuck knows this. Every meeting we listen to about Lower Valley Ambulance.
Yeah.
And you don't know how lucky you are to have good ambulance service, because what those other communities are going through is not fun.
Yeah.
So we're very blessed. So anything we can do to help any of these folks, I am all for it. I
Okay.
brought it up, I don't know how many years ago. Well, I gave you all the paperwork.
You did.
And I was for it then, and I'm for it now.
We did have a meeting a few years ago, but it just, nobody ever did anything else with it. They just dropped the ball.
Well, Dave Rigoli told me I wasn't allowed to do anything with it, so I had to be out of it.
Right, but we did actually
Solicitors.
have a
Let's
meeting, and
not
we
drop
did,
the ball this time.
some of the, I think some of the problem was it was very, very confusing at the time with all the paperwork
Let's
that
not
people
drop
had to
the ball
do.
this time.
Because there's a lot of
God
paperwork they have
rest
to
his
do.
soul.
There is.
And they were sort of like, no, I don't want to do all that, and I'm like, well,
Right, I mean, even if
because
we
you have to
pass
write
and-
down, you have to write down their hours and all kinds of stuff that they do. They have to serve, they can't just show up to one fire a month.
You have to get it notarized, you have to
And
get the stuff,
that
yes.
will get them,
Yeah.
as you know.
Right.
You
But all
can't
the
just show
fire
up once.
departments, they have a log and they have their
Right.
calls and what they served
And
and
who was there.
Right,
Right,
So-
but once we pass it and set it up,
Then they'll
if
have to do it.
that's gonna be on them, if
Correct.
they don't do it after that, then they
Yeah.
go have a conversation with the
And that
fire.
just sort
And
of,
they
it just
keep
all
along with
died.
that anyway.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
all right,
the
so
fire chief
there's
has to-
that one.
Earth Day.
Birthday.
Service logs, he's got a problem when there's a.
Yes,
Exactly.
so Earth Day, we're looking at doing a joint event with Brackenridge and Harrison, which will culminate in, Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong here, but a picnic here in Tarentum is what we're looking at. And a lot of it, so the materials and the dumpster would be covered, the cost would be covered by a separate entity.
The PA Beautiful or whatever.
Yes.
That's Saturday, April.
22nd. That, either Dwight or Amy with us registers with the state for, all three of us. And they provide gloves and vests and bags. They they facilitate access to the dumpsters so that
Okay.
this PA would pay for the landfill. We have to pay for
the
the
dumpster
actual
cost.
dumpster. We were able to work very nicely with
take
Waste
ours.
Management last year.
So
We got-
I know, sorry, go ahead.
And your Waste Management too, so, we had two they're big, 30-yard or whatever in Natrona, and you could have one or two.
So I know, Carrie, you in the past, I don't know if it's part of the rec board or if it was just you personally, but you always organize that.
Are we gonna put an ad in the paper?
Yeah, I did a bang-up
asking
job
for
with it.
volunteers this year, or?
No.
So,
No, I gotta-
so are we envisioning that we are all collecting garbage in all three municipalities, let's say, I don't know, 9 to 12 or something like that, and then meet at Drescher at 12:30 for a picnic / something or another?
Yeah, we were doing 10 to 1, but,
Okay.
it doesn't
Yeah, I mean, whatever the
it doesn't
times are.
matter. I mean,
Chuck, did you guys advertise for people to put unwanted stuff out on the curb or?
Now,
And they picked
we
it up,
tried
too?
not to. We were
Yeah, 'cause
trying
you
to
had people
I'd be
really
afraid of what people
pick
put out.
up the streets and alleys that under their, now in Natrona, they were a little more aggressive and they had stuff coming out of people's garages, which was okay, because it would have ended up in the alley later anyway in that case. But we identified streets and alleys, and we had all 5 wards separately kind of organizing their own.
Any unwanted stuff laying around the backyard?
And we could probably leave that up to the 3 municipalities. I know Carrie had, when Crosby and Jenny and I walked down, it was like, hey, here's your route. There's a whole bunch of them there. We picked the route, we got our vests, we got our gloves, we got our bags, and we followed the route, and then we met back here, and then.
I have a very important question about all this, though. Who is doing that actual route planning and everything for each municipality?
Carrie
For our municipality, Carrie was.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean she wants to or is going to do it again.
Oh, she does. I can see.
She has all the plans in a book.
Well, my
I
thought,
wasn't asked to be part of this, so if you
My-
want me to be part of it, I will. I
my
have
part,
it
or
all.
my thinking is,
Yeah,
the
you have
three
gloves and everything, don't you?
municipalities
Yes.
figure out
Each.
Their own.
their own.
Yes.
But the joint part comes into, we're all doing it at the same day, the same time, and then the joint part comes down to it, hey, I don't care if you're from Trona, Brackenridge to Trona, drive down, walk down the dresser, I'll cook some
Yeah.
hamburgers, hot dogs, we'll get some
Right.
donations.
Well, that's the other question. So who's gonna do the cooking and the donations and
I'll
the
cook.
cost?
I don't have a problem cooking.
Why
I'll call
wouldn't
them
you do
first.
it in the snack
You
shack?
need more than one
area?
cook.
That's why we're having this discussion. I don't know.
I mean, you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
got your
because you got
electrics
tables
there,
and electric and
everything's
everything there,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alley.
Hey Chuck,
Oh.
did anybody last year get in touch with the school to see if any of like, you need volunteer
We did.
time?
Yeah.
Did we? Okay.
John did. We had it in the stroller, a couple times.
Pre-COVID, I know football came down with a group of kids, and it's been a few years, but
Yeah.
the year that you had it before COVID, I know Rifo had a group of,
You also have.
Yeah, we've had church groups come before but it just depends on, you don't know who's gonna show up.
Right. So great you're handling for here. What about Brackenridge? Well, I know you're gonna get it covered, but forgive me, I don't know everybody in the area, so like,
I was at.
and ain't you guys up in Harrison have it covered, but what
I was at the
about?
Brackenridge Council last week when they voted, we discussed it, and Lindsay Frazier and Dino Lapriato will.
Okay, so they're gonna
coordinate on
take care of-
everything. So, they'll do whatever. If you guys, through the PA thing, if you were to get, say, 1, maybe 2 dumpsters, I don't know, and have the dumpsters at Drescher, then Brackenridge could put their stuff in those in that too. I mean, for
What
us.
we usually do here in Trenham is the borough workers came and picked up ours and took it out to the borough garage dumpsters.
Oh, well.
So, and we don't do
Whatever.
like homes, this is strictly cleaning the streets,
Cleaning the
Right.
streets.
the
Streets and
ball
sidewalks
fields,
and,
the,
yeah,
yes,
park
all
and
of
stuff.
we
that.
got enough just
Our
doing
Little
that.
League,
Yeah.
Just clean up
Take
the
time
field.
to
No, we didn't see
uh,
the phone,
by
too.
the Little
Right.
League.
Cover everything.
Fields
Right.
and stuff like
Too
that.
much. I did it.
Now,
2
the
years. I
last
kept
2
doing it.
years, the borough sent out, a borough worker to pick up the trash and drive it out to the,
And get rid of it, yeah.
yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And last year we had
If you have,
But in previous, we just took the garbage out, but past 2 years, they came out,
Pick it up.
so.
if you have whoever, Carrie and whoever, I don't know, whoever you kind of appoint, and then we can have a little subgroup and not take up, all the council or board's
Right.
time. And we complicated a little bit because my ward adopted Pleasantville Road since 2016, so we clean up and work directly with PennDOT.
Well, that's, you get your gloves and vests. Did you ever go and get anything from them?
Yeah, we have so many. I emailed them yesterday.
Yeah, we have a
I
bunch
emailed them
too.
yesterday, we don't need their help, other than they'll pick up from Pleasantville Road, PennDOT does.
That's a main thoroughfare.
You know, send a dump truck
We
and
have to
crew.
have a
Yeah,
police.
Saxon.
You'd have to, yeah, out there.
Yeah.
But
I've been 'em out
he
there.
knows the police.
I'll do
Yeah,
whatever
that
you
was
need
a
me to
little
support.
bit of
Yeah.
A little bit.
Our solicitor's gonna make a contribution to the food cost.
Okay?
Eric's like, whoa, who's signing me up for this stuff?
Eric's job.
I got an apron with your name on it.
Well, we can cook. All right, so
We can buy a lot of hot dogs and buns for $200.
I'm not a cook. I cook.
How many people do you
That's what I
usually
do.
get?
Burgers, hot
I
dogs.
grab a grill.
Well, we've had anywhere from 100 to 200.
Your family.
Yes,
Pick a family
we
day.
don't get that many.
Right.
That's
My wife
why
to
we
leave the house.
need to advertise in the
But,
paper.
but we have, and we've had articles in the paper about it. Because actually, Brackenridge didn't do it last year, right? Me and you did it.
Well, I think we
And
can
they did
push
an
it on
article,
social
I
media,
believe,
put it
last
in
year.
the.
It can be
in the-
everywhere.
You know, if we can get it, if we can put it in the April utility bill, we can get a flyer in the April utility bill. I mean, it'll be early, but that's the only mailer we'll have out, and then we can really push it.
When are you putting the garbage?
Perfect example when
You
some
advertise free
citizens
food, you'll
use.
probably get a lot of.
Right. Sorry.
But you don't get a burger unless you turn in a bag of garbage.
Well, if you
Today.
feed them, they will come.
The only risk is
I'm
rain.
waiting on Waste Management. They're supposed to.
It won't melt.
Provide us with all of the marketing.
Well, last year was beautiful.
And they don't know exactly.
Oh, it was beautiful.
You guys keep telling
I think the
us
last couple of
June,
years.
July, because they don't have a order.
Well, one year I remember it being
Last
chilly.
year, we had
Last year it was like, I
we
remember being
probably
shorts and a
had
t-shirt, like, putting that
80
vest on, sweating.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it was good though.
and Waste Management picked them up
Somebody's got
at
two
Bratton's.
projection TVs sitting.
So Carrie, as far as Tarentum is,
And I keep telling
Because it'll be
them,
over.
always management, they'll come.
as far as Tarentum's concerned, you're okay being voluntold?
Sure.
Voluntold.
Voluntold?
That's a new word. I like that word.
All right, and we have time to, you know, whatever time that ends down at the, I like your idea, because we have the water and electric and everything we need down
Yeah,
there.
down there.
A lot of benches for people to sit on. I
And
like
if it
that
happens to be
idea.
drizzling,
Right, if it
we're in a
happens to be
pavilion.
yucky weather, they got
Yeah.
a little bit of shelter. Okay, I like that. 100-year anniversary of the library is next.
It's on the 13th.
I completed the printing of the proclamation. It's in printing right now. It'll be ready by next meeting.
Yep.
And do we have, I'm assuming we're gonna invite representatives from the library for somebody to present that to?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I told them about it last month.
okay.
And then we'll confirm, and they'll come down for the 14th for the meeting, and
How many board of directors do they have on that board, do you know?
I'll have to go and check on that, but it was the head librarian who was planning on coming down.
Cindy will probably be here for the
Raskin?
meting, she'll
Yeah.
know.
I think so, I think that's
Yeah.
her name, yeah. Yeah,
She's a new one.
yeah, yeah.
She's very nice.
Yes, she is. So there's that. So upcoming garbage changes, so we are still waiting on Waste Management. They are, as part of this deal, they are to help with the marketing for this and getting flyers and postcards. The changes are still projected to take place in June, July. Once we have the additional marketing materials, we'll send them out just to say, hey, that everybody knows that this is coming. As we get closer to the date of the bin deployment, then we will have more information on actual pickup dates and any other pertinent information that's gonna be needed. It's just to reiterate that this was, even though it's still the same company, same Waste Management, this is something that's been going on in multiple municipalities that we did put out a bid, but unfortunately, we got no bids, and we were able to work directly with Waste Management to at least keep garbage for the borough. Yes, President Tedowski.
Been called worse. When you said, it just made me think of something, maybe we discussed this and so we're gonna have garbage, maybe we don't know the answer to this question. Waste Management is gonna deliver, let's say, 2,000 garbage cans in one central location. they are not delivering the garbage cans to each individual resident. It's gonna be the resident's responsibility to pick up that garbage can, or do we not know that?
No, when Ray and I met with them, with Ray, myself and Mark, they told us that they would bring them in, set them up, and then they would take them to
Okay.
the resident's house.
Okay.
Now, that's what we were told. Hopefully, that's what actually happens.
It's different for somebody where you live than I live down the street. I'd send my kid down the wheel
That's-
down, but somebody that's way up on
That's
top of
gonna,
the hill.
are they gonna be numbered and signed to the residents?
There's supposed to be QR code and everything, so if
QR
they
code.
get stolen,
Yes. Yep.
That they could drive around and find it for you.
Yeah, they stay at the address.
Do we know of any municipality that has received their garbage cans yet from Waste Management?
Or are they still in the middle of the ocean?
There's,
Or is everybody still in the waiting?
there's a
Still
few,
waiting.
there's a few of them that are still waiting.
Well, I was just curious if we
container
talked
ship comes
to
from China.
anybody that
Lower-
has already gotten them.
Lower Borough has waste management for recycling. And the street that my sister-in-law lives on, not everybody has waste management for garbage. And they gave everybody on that street a recycling bin. That everybody doesn't, they just gave everybody one instead
They
of,
get to pick their garbage over there, who they want.
Yes.
yeah.
we're not even getting into that conversation.
I got
So
a
there's always
private
garbage on the
dumpster, right,
street.
Kev?
Wow.
I got a private dumpster, right?
Yeah, you could use mine.
I know where there's a dumpster.
So,
that's
the
we
other
have a
thing
problem.
the other thing that Dwight and I talked about it a bunch of times, and I don't think we have an answer to it, but, I mean, I have 4 garbage cans in my house. So what do we, I can just envision,
Better throw out your garbage cans in your new garbage.
I can envision a couple thousand garbage, all these people that have all these garbage cans. Now, what do I do with it?
Waste
What about people that are
management.
right now buying new trash cans because they don't realize that they're gonna be getting a
Well, that's what I mean. I have 4 or 5
They're
in my
gonna get a little
house.
upset if they're
What
spending,
am I gonna do with
you
it?
know,
I'm
up to
sure.
$120 for a new garbage can,
Somebody
and now they're not
Well,
gonna
I'd
be
pay
able to use it.
$120 for
Yeah,
a garbage
I'm
can.
sure.
All right, you go to Lowe's and
So
you
we
buy one
might
of the big
wanna put
ones.
a
that's
notice
$100.
out
I ain't paying that much for a
in
garbage
the
can.
new bill saying,
Yeah, just out there
you
with the
know,
tires.
don't be buying new outdoor trash cans.
Yeah, we have the stuff
My
coming,
one
like
actually
Waste
cracked
Management
today,
is
and I
supposed,
said, "You know what, I'm getting a new one."
supposed to have it to us this month, because part of what we're paying for is for them to produce those postcards and stuff that's, hey, change, like literally all it says is change is coming. But we paid for that in, they're supposed to deliver it so that we can start notifying residents March, April, May, June. And then as we get closer, like this is the actual rollout date of the bins and communication.
Yeah, because I can
Yes.
see
Oh, yeah, we're,
some very upset people if they go out and buy a $120 trash can and then they get told they can't use it.
Well, we've been talking about it
Absolutely.
since January. So anybody that's,
Oh, yeah. Anybody I see, I tell them, don't buy a new
anybody
can.
that's paying attention.
The majority of people just take it in a garbage bag and throw it out in the yard. They don't even use a garbage can.
yeah, so that,
So-
That too.
as we discussed ad nauseum, it's gonna be a change, and it's gonna take time for everybody to get used to it, but unfortunately, this was really the only option that we had as a borough. So, when the garbage contract comes up again in 3 years, we will be having a much more in-depth discussion about our options.
And we'll start much earlier
Yes, we
to
will.
discuss.
Yes,
Tell
we will.
everybody to keep their old garbage cans.
I still have my recycling bins. They told us
I
not
have
to throw those
mine, too.
recycling bins
I
in.
have
They're
mine,
still in my
too.
garage.
I have mine.
Okay, so there's that,
2 new employees.
yes. These are, so the one is, we had one Public Works member retire in January. This is the replacement for that position. And then we have one starting on the 15th, which is for our new position, which is the part-time code enforcement administrative. So we've been working over the last month and a half, as most of you know, to kind of rearrange stuff. We've moved our finance person into this office over here. We have a desk ready for this person to go. They are gonna be super helpful, in my opinion, for helping Anthony do what he needs to do, and particularly with garbage changes coming, making sure that all the codes are being followed.
So Public Works started March 6th and we'll ratify next week.
We will ratify next week, and then the other one starts the day after our meeting.
Okay.
And we had council members present on both of those interviews, and
You're welcome.
We had a very good crop of candidates, and if we have other jobs come open in the future, I hope that some of those same candidates would reapply.
Good. Discussion on moving to monthly planning meetings.
Yes, so Jim and I have talked a few times now, but we feel that there's certainly a need and a desire to have a standing planning meeting. So instead of just being solely reactive when there is business, having a monthly planning meeting that discussions can be had about upcoming things that need to be dealt with, strategy sessions, whether that's 215 Corbett or whether we want to apply for other grants that might help the municipality in the future. Having this standing planning committee meeting, I think, would be good for a number of things.
I forgot the word committee. That's why. I know
Yeah.
you knew what it meant.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
What date are they doing this on?
So we have floated out tentative fourth Mondays, but when the next planning meeting is going to be on the 16th, and they're going to officially discuss it and confirm there if it's going to be those fourth Mondays or if they want to move to another day, whatever works for the majority of people.
So the next meeting is March
16th.
16th, which is a Thursday.
Correct, and the advertisement was out,
What time is that?
5 o'clock. There's some things that need to be considered already, like lot consolidations and everything else, kind of business as usual, but then deciding on when we're going to do those monthly planning meetings. And sometimes the engineer needs to be there, sometimes they don't. So it's also kind of working with a set schedule helps the engineer that they know that block off this time, that if I need to be at Tarentum, that they can be.
I like that idea.
Last two things that I have on here is an update to the 2013 police drop ordinance. So as we are getting ready to go through the audit and everything else and go through all of the relevant ordinances, there was some slight changes in there. Whenever the ordinance was done in 2013, they begged, borrowed, and stealed off another municipality, which was wonderful. We all do it. But unfortunately, they left the word McKeesport Volunteer Fire Department in some pretty prominent spots. So we need to correct that. It's nothing major, but it does need corrected. And because it is an ordinance, there is a process to go through to change that, and we'll have to make it and put it out and advertise it and stuff. And I've already spoken with the chief and the police union about it, just because it does involve their pension and an ordinance change. And so they are good with that, and we will make the changes and get it out for advertising. Yeah, it's just one of those minor things, but as you come across them, you should update them and correct them. You never know in 10, 15 years how that's going to impact some sort of legal whatever. So there's that. And then this last item, we have an old Public Works truck, the GMC, which is more than at the end of its life, that we would like to list on municipal to see if we can get anything for it. That's it. It's in pretty rough shape.
And if
Is that
not,
the
we'll just
dumpster?
salute it and scrap it if it doesn't go.
Right,
anywhere.
if we don't get anything for it, then we'll scrap it.
Is it a
Little
dump
PJ
truck
Rico's.
or a three-quarter ton? What is it?
It's a dump, isn't it?
It's a dump.
It's a dump,
One ton.
literally.
Yeah, they've gotten their use out of it.
The seats all falling apart.
Yeah, so
It's a
that
farm
is everything we have officially listed. I don't think there's any other reports and maybe other
No,
comments.
all of the other reports will be
Regular meeting.
the regular meeting next week. Brings us to the second citizens comment, anything that was previously discussed or anything that is on your mind. Gentlemen,
I'll add that now the kind of planning committee moving along, I'd like to circle back around to the environmental advisory committee. We had established one, we had recruited people, and then right towards the end of last year, and then with the management transition and a few other things, it just never really got started. But my hope would be to reinvigorate that. I believe there's still 4 of the 5 members are official. One has probably elapsed and will need to be reappointed. But to get that going, because that could help address some of the litter pickup and other issues spread the load. And even, maybe recycling and trash-related issues could somehow be helped with that.
Is this something that you guys envisioned monthly, quarterly, as needed?
Probably be monthly as well. There's a little bit more planning that goes along with that and thinking and education type things. I'm not sure if they need to be advertised type meetings. That's one of the things that slowed us down. I was trying to get some clarity on that with Michael originally.
I mean, I would always err on if it's a standing borough committee that it advertised, then right, it's not gonna hurt.
Yeah,
Well, once you get them established, you can advertise them once at the beginning of the year.
Right.
As needed,
we'd
correct?
do the same thing, yeah. We'd,
Yeah.
pick a day of the month and just have it that way. And if there's no business to do, you can always cancel the meeting, but it's easier to get them all set
We
up.
passed that at a council meeting and everything, but it's just kind of stalled.
Probably the manager's.
Yeah, you were still on council when we passed that.
Probably.
Yeah, I was right.
So that's gotta be,
It was last December, I think we had appointed the last person to it, but then January.
but we probably created it September, October
We did, yeah,
of 2020, or not 2020, of
2021.
2021.
Okay.
So missed a year.
All right, same thing just with the planning then. I will reach out to the current committee members, make sure that there's still an interest. If we need to reappoint somebody, then we can add that on there and then we can figure out, when we want to do, right.
Perfect.
You're gonna be here for lots of meetings.
He loves this place.
That's all I have before I ask for a motion to adjourn at 6:50. Does anybody up here, any questions, comments, concerns for the good of the order? I have a motion to adjourn at 6:50.
Second.
Kevin, all in favor?
I thought they would just take Luann or, whatever.
I
It was like, I know, but it was like dead silence. Nobody was